Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of College Esports Insider. I'm Jorge, and we have a very lovely guest today, a very good friend of mine.
Hello, Alyssa Duran from Shenandoah University.
The one, the only, the great. How are you doing
I should be
today?
using that for you. I am doing great. I'm doing great. We were just talking about it beforehand. A lot of busy stuff, but exciting things happening in our worlds right now.
How's the start of the semester for you? When did you guys get started?
I think we're in the second week of school. So yeah, the time is blurred. So our students moved in a week early, our esports students for our
Mhm.
boot camp. So even that schedule's a little bit off. So we've had students around for a while. We're prepping for competition this week. Like NACE Varsity Premier started. Getting everybody kind of last second like tryouts, all those players in
Mm.
our systems, and then a lot of traveling and projects and stuff in the works. So we're full swing over here.
Yeah, I said all things are, huh?
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure you can relate.
Dude, it's been a crazy time for you guys keeping up with NECC with Counter Strike. I am so sorry, but there's too many of y'all. I was just telling Alyssa about that. I'm like, I'm tired, man. I think I have a total of like 20 tickets right now that I need to go get through, plus whatever else is in the chat. So we're gonna have a fun time after I finish this recording. But yeah.
Hey, we appreciate you. You're putting in the work so that our students have the good experience to get their all of the questions answered and they can go in and they can compete smoothly. So you're doing good work. Keep it up.
I appreciate that. So, just to get started, tell us a little bit about like your background in gaming. Where'd you get started with video games?
Yeah, yeah. So I have played video games basically my whole life. So I got involved when my dad kind of introduced computer gaming is what we used to call it. Now it's just like PC gaming, whatever.
Mhm.
But into computer games when I was very young. Also had like a PlayStation 3, I think I was. But I very young, I got into World of Warcraft actually. Like I was like a 7-year-old playing World of Warcraft.
That's kind of crazy,
And
actually.
yeah, yeah, I was very young. My dad is a big WoW fan. And that was a great I guess connector for our family. So my dad's side of the family, it was kind of like split up across like the US. And like my cousins got into World of Warcraft, my dad, my uncle, and even my aunt at one point. And so we as the cousins were brought on to play as well, even though we were a little bit probably too young for the game. But playing with your family and having that way to connect when you can't see them in person was just a great way to stay in touch. And so I've always been a big Blizzard fan because of that. I guess I'll get into, like, the esports because that's kind of a
Yeah, of
perfect
course.
segue. So being that Blizzard fan, I heard about Overwatch and its kind of leak very early on, so I was very hyped about the launch of Overwatch and was in the beta and everything. And so when that launched in, like, 2016, I kind of transitioned from playing a lot of World of Warcraft to playing a lot of Overwatch because I always liked the PvP element.
Mhm.
When I was playing World of Warcraft, like, I like the story, I like, the cosmetics, I liked a lot of that, but I oftentimes, if I had free time, like, after school, I was getting on, I was doing arenas or I was doing battlegrounds. I was doing the for anyone, like, unfamiliar with World of Warcraft, it's just, like, mini game modes in the game that you're just playing against other people. You're hashing it out, and so when Overwatch launched this Blizzard product that I like, and I don't have to wait a 20-minute queue, it's usually shorter, it was like, "Okay, this is my thing now." So, um, then I know 2016, I started, college, like, 2018, so a couple years later, I started attending St. Ambrose University, and they had just launched their varsity esports program, which when I applied, I knew they had a club, and I was like, "Ooh, esports club, like, that sounds fun. They have Overwatch, interesting," but I don't know, we'll see. At the time, actually, Joshua Sides was the first, program director there, and I ended up trying out for the team. He very graciously let me on the team. Our players were very good at that time, and I was not, but I was told my coachability and my willingness to work with, like, the people and the team, was what was kind of, like, attractive, so they brought me on, and I guess I am here now because of that opportunity.
There you go. It all
Yeah,
starts somewhere.
yeah.
I don't hear that many people that played the beta of Overwatch actually.
I I know, I know. I definitely played the beta. I don't know if there was, like, an alpha that was public or not, but I definitely played the beta. So I've seen every kind of iteration of Overwatch. And during my time, so I was at, like, St. Ambrose from
Mhm,
2018, 2019, that, like, first year to 2022. So
mhm,
I was a player, I ended up being a team captain, I ended up moving up to an Overwatch coach, and I just really, really enjoyed the esports environment, and that is like where I ultimately decided to pursue that full time. I originally went to school to be an elementary school teacher,
oh,
which
wow.
a lot of people usually think that's pretty funny. The skills are very applicable to the esports environment and team. Well, I mean, like coaching's teaching, right?
Yeah,
Like those fundamentals of teaching have been so relevant to what I've done, and now it's more like the organization, the planning, the working with people skills.
mhm.
Those are I still use those. So, I do not regret my undergrad degree at all. I think it's very much helped me. So,
I like to
but
see the pathways that people took their undergrads in, because I think my favorite one so far has been Christine, fan who's at
uh-huh.
MSI and now is at Racer. I think she did, like, marine biology or something like that, and
Yeah, that's crazy to me. It's like how do you end up there to esports? That's so
I know,
cool.
like, I find that so fascinating, especially people who have gone through the college esports route, is like, how'd you start off with, like, the most asinine degree, from something and then end up in esports? And it's always a fun story to hear, so definitely love
And
that one.
we just have too much fun. Why would you not want to be a part of this?
Exactly. Did you ever get to do the student teaching and all that stuff, or no?
Yeah, so I actually did like 3.5 years at St. Ambrose. So that half year, because I was like a December grad, I was student teaching during that time. So if you're unfamiliar with how like the education side of things works, basically most schools have like your last semester of your education degree is you are going to the school and you're like working full time with the teacher. And how mine worked was she started teaching, I was observing, and then we ended up like splitting until then I was full time teaching by the end of the semester. And so I was doing that. So you're there from 7, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I was doing
Mhm,
that every day for my like class. And then I was coaching in the evening, which if you think about that schedule, that's like a 7 to 8, 9 schedule. So it was pretty rough. But during that time period, it was also post-COVID, so it was, like, pretty rough time for, like, teachers, and just, like, the education system in general, like, I don't think I need to even go into that, I think
no.
everyone understands the struggles. So, like, during that time, I was like, "Dude, I love coaching, I love what I'm doing." And then the semester after that in that spring, I started kind of like applying to jobs. I was substitute teaching because it's kind of weird to take on like a full-time teaching job midway through the year. You
Mhm,
can do it, but oftentimes like something happened, the teacher left, so sometimes it could be like very hectic environment and I was still
mhm,
coaching. So, I was like I'll substitute teach until I figure out what I want to do the next semester. And kind of during that time frame, I kind of started realizing that I might be substitute teaching all day, but I was looking forward to, like, my 2-hour scrim at the end of the day, and
mhm,
that was, like, pretty consistent, and I was like, "I should pursue esports. I'm very clearly passionate about this. I don't mind working a 12-hour esports day." Like,
mhm.
I think that's pretty clear, like, okay, I should pursue that route. Not that that's healthy, don't do that, but, event days and whatnot. Yeah, I started applying to esports jobs, and over that summer is when I actually got hired on in my previous role here as a coordinator of competition, at Shenandoah University. So,
So what's that transition like? I mean, you went from coaching at St. Ambrose to now coordinator of competition. What was the
uh,
learning curve there? Did you have a lot, like, a big learning curve, or was it pretty, like, seamless transition there?
yeah, it was interesting. Honestly, I would say my transition from coordinator of competition to esports program director, like which I'm doing now, that was almost more difficult. From
Mm,
coaching to coordinator of competition, it was more like scaling because
mm,
I was fortunate to take on my first like real esports job, whatever you wanna call that,
mhm,
like, full-time job, I guess I should say. I was fortunate that it wasn't immediately, like, a director role in charge of everything, and I feel very fortunate for that. I know a lot of people that's not the case, and so I feel like I was able to take a stepping stone. But it was really just scaling what I was doing with my own team. Fortunately, working under Chase Newcomb, was my
Mhm.
director at the time, he gave us a lot of autonomy and responsibility as coaches. Of course, with like structure and help, but because of that, I was exposed to a lot of the skills I was doing, even in my role now.
Mhm.
So it was more like when I came into Shenandoah, it was comparing what we did between the two programs and what was different. Like, oh, I like that you guys do this, but you guys could really benefit from like this structure for our teams. Or like I implemented like our first boot camps and a lot of like the competition structure, our kind of documentation, our processes. I was able to bring a lot of that from St. Ambrose to here, and I think we greatly benefited from that. So it
Mhm.
was kind of cool to have that kind of perspective coming into the program.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You had a lot of experience, man. I
Yeah.
don't know what to say.
I mean, yes and no. Like I have filled quite a few different roles,
Mhm.
but like I'm still young. I was laughing this weekend. I was talking to some esports people at Chase's wedding, and they
Mhm.
were laughing. I'm 24 years old, and they're like, "You're a baby. What? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well." A lot of directors started out young, especially like 2018 era. Now we've kind of 6 years since then, but a lot of people started off in this industry very young, and that's why we
I
get
don't
called
know,
old
man. Me
at
personally, I talked to
28.
someone who's young, and they're like, "Dude, you're in retirement age. Get out of here."
I know,
We're literally
I
the
know.
same age too. Is the funny part.
My favorite thing, my first year here at Shenandoah. So I was in my like previous role, the coordinator of comp, and I
Mhm.
had one of my first year students, so 18 years old. I'm at the time 22,
Mhm.
and he says, he like asked how old I was, and he said, "Oh my god, you're old." I was like, "We could have gone to high school together."
Yup, exactly.
Not old. I was like, "Okay." I knew that would happen soon, but I didn't think it would happen that fast.
I think my
Oh
favorite
gosh.
one when I was still, because I had to take a fifth year at UNCC, right? So I think my favorite one was
Yeah.
like me being 23, talking to this like brand new 18-year-old players. They're like, "Dude, you're ancient." And I'm like, "No, I'm bro."
It's so funny. It's so funny, like and we work in, like, an academic, like, sector, right? So, then I go and talk to, like, the professors, and they're like, "Oh, you don't even have your master's yet? Like, you're literally like a child. You're basically one of my students." And it's just, like, such a different perspective. I mean,
It
we're
is.
starting, like, helping grow this industry from its very young age, so it makes sense we're, like, the ones that kind of grew up through it and continuing in
Mhm.
it. But the different perspective on age is hilarious.
I know. We're talking a little earlier. You said you were working on your master's. How long have you been doing that for?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I started classes in January of this year. So,
Mm,
because I had the education undergrad, I had to take some prerequisites because now, so our program, like academically, is housed in the School of Business.
mhm,
I decided to pursue my MBA with a concentration in esports management. And so I had to take like some finance, accounting, like economics classes before
mhm,
I started my actual degree. So I did like the spring term, summer term, and then I fully started my like graduate degree this semester. And we're now taking like a module based system for our MBA, which is
mhm.
kind of fun. So I've enjoyed it this semester. Although with an asterisk of it's a lot of work to work full time and be a grad student, which I know you can relate as well.
Yup, it's always a fun time. I think I'm thankful enough that we have kind of like built a team in Converse to just like support all the different things. Because I cannot imagine, like, I know there are a couple of directors who it's literally just them, and they're also trying to pursue grad school and all that fun stuff. And bro, I could not do that. Like, it's
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah. I have found it interesting. I guess this is a question for you. Have you seen I guess what is your perspective on needing a master's degree in like collegiate esports if you want to work in it? Do you have any opinions on that?
This might be a hot take. I don't know if it is. In
Okay.
my
Yeah, hot
opinion,
takes are
in my honest opinion, I think you're getting it for the paper. I'll be honest. You. I don't. I mean,
fine.
I think what you get out of the experience of coming into a leadership position is enough. And like, at least for me personally, I've been doing this esports thing for 10 years. So it's like I've seen it develop and I've helped it develop from when we were just sitting in the back of hotels, just like with a
Yeah.
couple desk setups, all the way now to arenas. Like I was, I've been part of that history for a while. And so for me, as someone who started doing management and esports since I was 16, it's kind of like I'm doing it for the paper, not really doing it for the, I like the education. Don't get me wrong. I think the only thing that I've really learned is how to research properly, which has
Yeah.
been kind of fun and kind of like doing that like scholarly writing piece. So I look forward to the possibility of maybe one day teaching myself. I think that's one of the cool things about it that I would like to do someday. But like, other than that, you're really just doing it for the quote unquote certification that then lets you go to these like higher level, higher education roles.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I kind of agree with you. It might be a hot take, but like for to do our specific collegiate esports jobs, I think there are bits and pieces, at least like from what I'm learning, that are going to be relevant, like business topics that I obviously was not exposed to in my undergrad. So I think those have been directly relevant, but a lot of what I'm doing is kind of beyond the scope of what I will be doing. So I do agree that sometimes it is a little bit for the paper, as you put, because I have heard recently of more people being denied if they don't have a master's, if they're pursuing a director role. So I think that makes sense in just like the development of that role in our industry and higher
mhm.
ed, usually wanting a master's, if not a PhD, for a lot of academic based roles. So I think it makes sense, although maybe frustrating for some people.
It is frustrating. Just from personally talking, like I've applied at a couple D1 colleges, right? All the people, and I've made it to the finalist spots for those interviews. I've lost it now every single time to somebody who had a little bit less experience but had a master's degree. And I think there's kind of a correlation there. And don't get me wrong, these people are just as qualified to take these jobs. I'm not saying they aren't. But at the end of the day, there are things that higher education values more than others, and I think one of those is having that kind of like terminal degree.
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily know that I agree or disagree with it. I think it's just a thing. But
Yeah.
here we are trying to get through it.
Yep, here I am. I joke right now that I get done with work and then I clock into my second job, which is my grad degree homework.
Yup.
And so it's a grind sometimes, but hopefully I'll be done in a couple of years and move on with my piece of paper.
There you go. I'm done in May and I'm so excited.
Well, yeah, that's actually fast. Good for you, dude.
Dude, I'm tired. I got a
Almost
break during
there.
the summer. I got a break during the summer, because of the
Yeah.
wedding and all that fun stuff, and so, um, Hannah just finished her associates. She got a little bit of a late start to schooling just because she switched majors all over the place, but, nonetheless, watching her go through, like, all the full-time schooling, I'm like, "Bro, I'm not excited for the fall because that's about to be me."
Oh gosh. So you just started or you're doing it in a year?
No, so I started
Mhm.
last year when I started at Converse.
Yeah,
I also
okay.
started my master's. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, got one more year left, and then after that, gonna see what I end up doing.
Awesome, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Converse on Twitter right now. Your guys, I had to say this at some point during this call. Your guys' stuff on your graphics and your I guess like marketing online has been so cool lately. I've been like visually like so intrigued by what you guys have been
Our
posting.
GA Ashley, that's all her, man. She's
It's so
amazing at what she
awesome.
does. She's always like trying to push herself to the next level, learning like 3D modeling and learning this and learning, bro.
Oh,
Which is funny because she's like an English major. She's studying to like teach in college.
that's
Like,
crazy.
yeah, she just mentioned to me the other day. I hope I'm not leaking anything with this. I'm gonna hit her up after this just to make sure. But she's like thinking about getting her like PhD because she wants to teach English in college, which I think is like cool and amazing. But it's literally just goes back to the whole conversation of you're in esports doing something, but you're studying completely unrelated things, which I think is awesome. Like people are expanding their knowledge and their mind, and I think that's great.
It's so cool, and I think it shows like there's so many different roles in our space, which is such a common conversation with parents, with the high school students that we're recruiting, and then also like the transferable skills. Like that's what we really try to hone in on our academics, and I mean we're seeing it at our level as well.
Yeah, you guys do an awesome job at Shenandoah with the transferable skills part. I mean, you guys are always at all these events at DreamHack. I think you guys were at Hugh last year. Hopefully, you're there this year. I don't know what that's looking like. I saw Ian joining the DreamHack chat for
Yep.
the what's it called, the collegiate competition that's about to happen soon. So
Mhm,
like, you
mhm.
guys are all over the place. Everywhere I go, it's Shenandoah everywhere, and I love to see it.
I love it. We because we have the academic focus,
Mm,
that I like we have the different pillars, the competition, the broadcasts, the academics and experiential learning. I've almost made that as one as well. But we're housed under the School of Business. That's where we get our budget from. And so we really try to get our students experience in the esports industry. And like I've already said, there's so many different ways I can look. Maybe that's a work study on campus. It's a coach, a team manager. Maybe it's working on our broadcast team. Maybe it's event management. And so that's where we really try to like go to events. And then that's also like maybe you're not necessarily interested in event management, but going to the event and working, you're meeting people from
mm.
the day to day to the high level operations piece. And so we just try to expose them to all of these different roles and they get to meet people. And oftentimes that helps our students kind of figure out what path they want to take. And so I take it you were going to DreamHack then, and so we'll be sending some students down to go work with the festival. Ian working with Prod hopefully, and so it should be a fun trip for them.
Should be. So just to talk a little bit on that piece, because you know, you guys, I think I don't really see that many programs belonging under an academic piece. I think the only one that
Yeah.
comes to like mind that's like really like up there has been Michigan State, with them belonging
Mhm.
under their School of Communications, right? So like, you know, as someone who came from St. Ambrose in athletics to now this, like what are some of the differences that you see in that?
Yeah, I think it is interesting to have the academic focus because I think I probably I might make people mad by this. I think it correlates that's why I hesitated. I think it correlates more closely with this development piece and this idea that we're trying to develop these players and help them get a career in a field that they want. Now, I'm fortunate that a lot of our competitors are also esports management majors, so there's a big correlation. When I was under like athletics, we had people from all over and all over types of interest as well. Sometimes we'd have some random major unrelated to esports. They're like, "Hey, this is like the fun thing I do at 7 p.m. and not much else." Um, and then you'd have all the way to like, "I want to be in esports and I want to do this." And I think at Shenandoah, because we're bringing in students already interested in esports, they want to do everything. They want to get involved with
Mhm,
everything. Um, I like the academic piece because we also don't have as much as a focus on like we have to enter in certain competitions or we have to like there's less parameters on what we have to do for competition, so we really get to follow like what our students are passionate about, and enter in leagues that fit like their interests,
mhm.
and really kind of shape competition to what we want it to be. And I like that freedom. We have a lot more autonomy. Not that anything in the past was like bad, but it's like you are expected to hit a certain win rate and you're expected to maybe participate in certain leagues because they're correlated with, I don't know, like a sports organization or something. Like
Mhm,
NACE is correlated with the NAIA and St. Ambrose an NAIA school. So that's like a good thing to say, like, look at what we're doing.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, I guess more freedom on the competition side. Academics, we get to pursue esports industry events, conferences, travel related to that. And I think if we were only competition focused, it's hard to justify going to those things and exposing your students to those things, even if you want to, because it's like your competitive team. Why are you going to NACAD, right? Like, because there's no competition
Yeah.
there.
I think that's something that I've
Yeah.
like personally just been struggling with, you know, over the past year, and I think that this year specifically, I've started to work more towards a student experience belonging in athletics. Because yeah, I mean, it doesn't. It feels. I know the students are getting that something out of the competition, out of being in the team environment, but I think it's something. I
Yeah.
think it speaks volumes to actually being able to quantify that and being able to maybe even like put that towards where can I put towards these skills towards what or where? What am
Yeah.
I gonna do next? I think that that's a big component that I see a lot of programs struggling that belong in
Yeah.
athletics, and so that's why I always admire you guys, and oftentimes even refer to you guys because it's like, hey, look at what Shenandoah is doing to give the students that experiential learning. What can we do as a model of that? So kudos to you guys for always pushing those boundaries, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And there's definitely ways to like pursue that in a competitive environment with just like building around your team. Like, and I think this is commonplace probably for you. But you have your players, but they need a manager. They need the coach. You want somebody to broadcast it. Okay, let's add casters. And maybe you don't always have like the resources necessarily to support all those, maybe with a full scholarship or a work study or whatever that looks like, but you can build those student experiences out even if you don't necessarily have a full budget to do so.
Right.
Yeah.
Fun times. How do you guys differ when it comes to like an NAIA or like a D2 or a D1 compared to you guys being like a D3 school? Does that matter in any capacity, or is that like, you know?
Yeah, actually it does. So Shenandoah is a D3 school. We're about 4,000 students. We're pretty small. Cute campus though. Don't I won't lie about that.
Very cute campus.
Yeah, very cute campus. But because of that, we follow a lot of what our D3 athletics does, even though we're not under athletics. So, for example, we don't offer esports scholarships. We don't have anything in that domain because our sports teams don't get scholarships. So
Mm,
the president said in making this fair for everybody, we're a D3 school, like we're not going to offer an athletic scholarship for the esports students. So kind of our workaround for that is that we've offered like work study jobs for our students, and part of these are like federal funded and part of it's like the school fronts,
mhm,
and it's offering a position, a job for our students to be players, coaches, managers, all these different roles in our program, so that they are working their work is their practice, their game, their VOD reviews, their study halls, like these things that they're working and doing. Those are going towards their job on campus, which is fulfilling their esports expectations.
mhm.
So, and everybody's eligible for that at Shenandoah because of the way it's structured. And I have found that to be very nice. That money in totality would have been bigger than what I had as an esports scholarship. So,
Mhm.
um, it might not be the highest, but it is something.
Do you guys recruit more internally or externally? How does recruitment work for you guys?
Yeah, definitely externally. We try kind of a multifaceted approach where we're looking for students. So we're looking
Mhm.
for people that want to study sports management in our school of business. So that's a slightly different approach than necessarily just looking to bring on specific players.
Right.
We have a pretty good connection with our high school association. We're actually under it's VHSL, Virginia High School League.
Mm,
Their like traditional athletics division has adopted esports. So we work with them to like run championships, and we're looking to hopefully run more events this year with them and just like make those connections with different high schools, and then getting to know their teams and their coaches and saying, hey, school here in town, come in and have a watch party for our Rocket League team. Come meet the
mhm.
team, come ask questions. And we have found success in that route. And then it's like the traditional using Discord, stay plugged in, connecting,
Yep.
and like friends of friends of like,
Mhm.
oh, we found with like this VHSL structure where, okay, we had a player graduate from this high school. Well, their friend now 3, 4 years later that was on the team with them is now looking at Shenandoah because they were on the team with them. So it's
Mhm.
interesting to see how that like framework works in practice.
Word of mouth among players, I think, is very powerful, and I think it's very much underestimated, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and ensuring that that doesn't turn into poaching, that was a
Yeah.
big hot topic recently, and I had the frank I don't think that's ever gonna be a problem for us, so we're not, like, offering full ride scholarships, but I had the conversation with our team today of, like, "It's good to talk to your friends and talk about what you're doing. Make sure it doesn't look like this if they're a student at another school," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense." It's like they
Yeah, that
don't
was a
even
big
think
one
about
this
it.
year. Nate's just
Yeah,
added
yeah,
that to the
definitely.
bylaws, and then like for us, we have a program retreat where we take our students out somewhere in the wilderness. They show us the mountains. Uh,
I love wait, tell us about that. That sounds so fun.
so I mean, I don't know how long it's been a Converse tradition, right? I know that it's happened at least for 3 years now. The first one, obviously, I wasn't there, but last year we took students out to like a lake in the middle of South Carolina. Um, The place was nice. It was just absolutely terribly hot, and about half the program had heat stroke coming out of that. Because you're in the middle
Oh
of South
no.
Carolina swamp humidity, and like it was like a 3/4 mile walk from where we were staying over to the activities in the middle of the forest. So it was a
Oh
good time. Don't
gosh.
get me wrong, but I think coming into this year, our director and I were talking, and I was like, "Hey, please let me plan this. I don't want to go back to the swamp."
No swamp time for you guys anymore.
No,
So,
so
are you
this
saying that
year.
did you stay overnight or was it like a day thing? Multiple
Oh
days?
no,
How'd
we
that look?
stay multiple days. So I think we did 3 days last year, and then this year I think we did ended up doing 4 days.
That's so cool. That sounds so fun.
We went out to Asheville this time, to the mountains, which was about 10 degrees cooler than what Spartanburg was looking like. I think Spartanburg was sitting around like 85. Asheville was sitting around 75, 70 to 75, so it was great. It was a fun time.
Better.
To get to the activities, it was in fact like a what 1/4 mile walk, if that, to get to like the fields or the lake. We rented out a community pool for our students. We like went out to the zoo. It was a fun time. It was great. But also part of that is sitting down and having the tough conversations, right? Of like, hey, these are the expectations. These are your practice expectations. These are your behavioral expectations. And then we got to poaching and we were like, hey, you guys can't just go freely ask another person if they want to come to the school. Has to go through the director because if not, sanctions. And I
Mhm.
think that's gonna be a tough transition for them. Um, just learning that aspect, not because they necessarily do it maliciously. I think it's just players talk, people talk. Um, you might mention, "Hey, come to my school," and then this other player will be like, "I was talking to so and so who said come to Converse," and all of a sudden that director goes to the NAS board, and it just becomes a mess. So it's becoming meticulous. Not that I disagree with it. I think it's great actually, but it's
Yeah.
just more education going forward towards students this year than years past.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely always like you as a like a structured program have to have a process for informing your students because every league has some sort of code of conduct. Like NACE has a constitution and bylaws, then you have your specific rule books, and then it's like then you get into okay, what are like the like almost like hot topics, current topics going on. So like what is relevant? So like last year before these things were put in as maybe specific sanctions or maybe upheld or whatever that are like, "Hey, this is the thing that's going on, like, make sure you understand the standard for behavior as a player," and so, there's a lot of nuance, and everybody has their own Discord, their own everything, so, I I realized how fortunate I am to have, returning students so they kind of
Hmm.
understand, but we're bringing in, like, non-endemic esports students for some of, like, our academy teams, and I'm
Right.
like, "Hey, you're just learning how to use Discord. How do I explain all of this in a way?" Like, "Oh god." But
Yup.
it'll happen. It's a process. It's just a lot of information, and then, like, "Remember, this is how this works," because I know I threw a lot of information at you at the same time. Yeah.
So, on the topic of experiential learning, you guys do a lot of study abroads that I've seen at least. Can you talk some about that? How does planning go into that? Where do you guys go? What do you guys do?
Yeah, yeah. So, again, this is a unique feature of our school. So this is where like learn about your school and see like what kind of programs you can be a part of. So Shenandoah, part of like our mission is offering like a global perspective of. I get one, just like the world, being a global citizen of knowing that people are different with different backgrounds, different values, whatever. But also bringing that into your classroom and your degree of learning that your skill set, the way you go about things might look different in different countries. And so our school has global experiential learning trips. This about stands for GEL, Global Experiential Learning. And this is a study abroad program that it can be a department. It really can be really it could almost be like club focused as well, but you have to have like a faculty member, of course, but it is something that you can set up for your students with a specific audience in mind, and related to a specific purpose, and it'll get approved. So for us, because we are an esports academic department, we can put together global experiential learning trips related to something in esports management for those students. If we wanted to tailor it more specifically, we could. So it could be a more graduate focus, it could be a more competitive focus, it could be more academic. So it can look like different things. But usually we just go kind of academic for esports management usually. But these are study abroad trips. They are students can use like financial aid to pay for them, similarly to like any study abroad trip. So you use financial aid, and our students get credit for going on them. So they can count towards your gen ed. Sometimes for us, they count towards our actual experiential learning credits that are required for all of our esports management students. And in return, they're doing a couple like assignments on the trip, and usually some sort of work experience. So we've actually been able to go a lot of cool places because of this kind of program and the support the school does to like making it like happen. We've gone to like London, Dublin, Netherlands. They went to Korea a few years ago before I was here. We're actually planning a trip to Belgium in October.
Oh, fun.
And yeah, I'm actually really excited about it. But students sign up, like apply for this trip and get like approved. So we're going for like a week. And there's kind of like a formula for this. So we usually try to work some sort of esports event.
Okay.
So our students are volunteering or they're filling some specific role. Then connecting like with Scholastic in some way. So maybe connecting with a college there that offers esports, or if there's a professional connection with like touring a professional facility or somebody that works in esports, and getting to really just speak with these people or students and getting to learn what esports looks like in your country, because it varies so much. If you go to often like in an Asian country, their esports is so much more deeply embedded into their everyday culture. So it looks very different than, I don't know, somewhere in like the UK where that's like really growing. Like at the collegiate level, it's like it's smaller, but it's a growing scene. So then the US collegiate experience is probably more robust than what it looks like there. And so going on these trips, these students get to see different roles, but really see the state of the industry in different countries. But then with that, like we do different esports experience. It's all based on where you're going.
Right.
But also kind of incorporate some cultural elements. So we're usually learning about the area and just kind of like the people part of them, of like what is this country? What is their history? What do they value? And kind of intertwine some experiences like that as well.
Mhm.
So
That's
it's
really
a
cool.
very fun, yeah, it's a very fun opportunity. And I'm very fortunate to work at a school that offers that. Shenandoah, like to give you kind of perspective of that, like support. Shenandoah even offers a global citizenship project opportunity.
Mhm.
This is outside of esports; it's for the whole school. But every March they set up like a bunch of these trips, but they're just like kind of culture focused. So students can sign up for this project, and if they get selected, and they try to select students who have like either never traveled out of the country or they haven't traveled much in their lives, but they get selected and they get sent to a random country over spring break with like a group of like 10-ish students and a faculty member, and they
Mhm.
go have a gel trip somewhere random. And so, like for example, I'm going to use one of our GAs. He signed up for GCP. He had only been on a plane once before, and that was when
Mhm.
we went to, like, a trip. So, all of a sudden, he signed up for GCP and got sent to Bosnia
Oh, wow.
over, yeah, I got sent to Bosnia over spring break, and so it's, like, complete culture shock. So, he's been around Virginia his whole life. He's gone once on a plane, so this was like a, "Whoa," like, the world is so much bigger than I know,
Mhm.
right? And they planned that whole, like, week-long trip, and it's completely paid for, and students can just apply for that every year. Usually they go on it once, but that's
Right.
like they're dedicated to that global perspective. So I just think it's so cool. And as a staff member, I can actually sign up for it as well. Because they need people to chaperone. So they'll bring people in on that end. So it's just so cool.
So where are you going
So
next, Alyssa?
I don't know. Yeah, Belgium. Yeah, that's my answer. I don't know. I
Oh,
haven't done GCP because we're usually doing like events around the same time, so
right.
that's kind of been unfortunate. But I'll take what I can get. I've traveled more like working here than I have
Mhm.
in like my life, so it's just cool to be supported in that way.
5 countries that are on your wish list. Go.
Oh gosh, I have a map. That's why I keep looking over here. Um, I put up a little map of like where has our program gone. It's actually really
Yep.
cute. Um, Well, Ireland was one of them, but I got to go there last year. I
There
wanna
you
go
go.
to Japan. I would definitely wanna go to Japan. I wanna go I'm split on this, either Switzerland or, like, a Germany,
Mhm,
maybe like a Sweden. I have been watching videos of the Christmas markets, like they set
mhm.
up like an outside like Christmas market, and I think like a
Oh.
winter trip to somewhere cold, see the northern lights, do the
Yep.
Christmas market. Oh my gosh, tell me that doesn't sound so fun.
It sounds great. We have a town near Charlotte called McAdenville. They also call it Christmas Town, USA. And so the city actually pays all the residents their electric bill for the month of December. They get to
Oh
set
my
up all
gosh.
these light displays and fun stuff. So I got to go last year for my first time with it, and that was a great time. I'm looking forward to it again. The only thing is, since we're in the South, you don't get the cold as much.
Yeah,
It does get
yeah,
chilly, but it doesn't get cold. Like there's no snow, so that's my only gripe with
yeah,
it. But
yep,
other than
yep.
that, it's yeah, I
That
wanna go to,
sounds
like,
so
Iceland and
fun.
experience something like that, though.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's, like, almost like experiences that I wanna do, like, I wanna
Mhm.
see the Northern Lights, like, I guess, like, Japan would be, like, I want to experience
I
that.
woke up this
Um
morning I woke up this morning, I turn around to look ahead, and I'm like, "Let's go to Japan, please."
Oh my gosh, yes, that would be so fun. Oh gosh. Where's on your, like, must travel list?
Japan, because I think the culture there is so fascinating to me, completely different. Korea, because of the esports, that's always gonna be my cop out answer.
Yeah.
Um, I wanna go to the UK just in general. I feel like that's also one that half esports, but also half, like, I wanna go see all the sites.
Yeah.
I wanna go to Greece because I keep seeing all these pictures of Santorini, and I saw, what's his name, Sergio take that trip last year, and I'm like, "Bro, ever since
Mhm.
then, they look great."
I agree, that
Um,
one's definitely on my list as well.
and I wanna go to Brazil because they also have a very interesting culture, and also because of
Yeah.
the esports.
Yeah, that would be so fun. Oh gosh. All right. Well, you start working here and then we'll put together some jail trips. Just kidding.
Oh, you bro.
Oh
Oh,
gosh.
man. So,
Yes. Just fun to
last
travel.
question I'm gonna ask you, and this is, you guys not too recent, but you guys did go through a recent transition. Good old Joey just decided to up and go up north. How dare he?
Yeah.
Uh,
How dare he?
so how has the transition been for you? I mean, you went from competition coordinator to interim director to director.
Mhm.
So what was that transition like? You touched on it a little bit earlier, but just trying to pick your brain here for the last time.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so Joey started Shenandoah Esports. He was a professor here in sports management, so he was really a dreamer in this academic esports world and had the skills and the knowledge to start that. So I'll always be thankful for him for creating this program and this structure and offering these resources that I have because he put in the work to vie for them and
Mm,
explain why it's important. But yeah, so he ended up getting hired to go work at Syracuse University and start a program. And as he should have been, they're
mhm,
looking D1 schools are looking for elite talent, and I would definitely put him in that category. So he and a couple of our previous employees went with him as well. But fortunately, we had a big staff volunteer coach system, and a lot of our people kind of moved up.
mhm.
And then we hired one more faculty member here. And so that all kind of happened over the spring into the summer. So the transition period was a little weird with like people leaving, people getting hired on, not immediately having like a director. But as that got worked through and then kind of full time, have our full team by June, July,
Mhm.
it has felt very good since then. Not that it was really like terrible because I'm still friends with literally our two
Yep.
schools are very close. We're very close. We worked well together, still do. But with our whole team kind of assembled here, I feel the same way of I feel like I have great talent. And we work on everything together, all very supportive. For me, kind of transitioning from competition to director, that's definitely intimidating. I was always like, I had director as my end goal. That's what I
Mhm.
wanted to do in the future. That future came a lot sooner than I had intended. Uh, But I think even Joey assured of like Alyssa is the one for the job. Like she can do this. She understands the culture and has that kind of management skills. And so kind of felt good going into that with that kind of like blessing, but also my experience as a competition coordinator was kind of like the next natural step of okay, let's think bigger picture than just competition. Let's take on that management role, working with a team. And so it's a learning process of like, oh, I have to think about this now. I didn't think about that. Learning how to answer to everybody. It's not just students, but it's a staff team. It's a grad assistants. It's now your higher admin. Just more people you have to answer to and ensure that you're kind of checking your boxes and everything. Um, so it's a process to get used to, but I would say I'm very much enjoying it and very much enjoying it because I think the school is supportive. Our students are fantastic. I've definitely noticed the difference between like summer to like students back on campus. I'm like, I feel so much more appreciated. I see the
Aw.
product of like, oh, I announced this like project I've been working on, and they're like, yes, like let's do
Aw.
this. It's gonna be fun. So it's like it's more exciting than like the summer where it's all like just prep work.
Mhm.
And the school building's empty, you know. So I feel very fortunate to work with students who are passionate, and then our team's just fantastic. I don't have to like micromanage anyone. Everybody's passionate. So we talk about something we want to do. It's who can do what and how and who's the best to take this on. And I just feel very lucky, and I very much enjoy that.
And with the addition of Chase, I mean, now you guys have a new lecturer. Is he
Yeah.
also working on projects, or what? What's that been like with him being in there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I can kind of give like a who's here. So it's like I'm the director, then we have coordinator of competition is Fernando. We have Ian Burnett who moved up from like a student role as a production like kind of manager. He's moved up. He's doing production full time. And then we have two lecturers, which are Xander and Chase Newcomb now. And yeah, Chase has been fantastic in his role. So he is taking on some of our classes. That's kind of his full time role is like teaching. Um, and then he still helps with events, with things on campus, and his energy has been fantastic. Anybody that knows Chase knows he comes with the energy and he comes with the
Yup.
passion. So he's like, this sounds fun. How can I get involved? What can I do? You tell me what I need to do, and we can get it done. And then for me as a new director, it's very nice to have his perspective as a previous director as well. So if there's something we're facing or something that I want him to look over, like his perspective is very valuable in that element as well.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you guys are hitting the ground running for the new school year, so that's great.
Thank you. Hopefully it all turns out well. You know, it's still chaotic. It's still everybody's busy and things can get stressful, but it helps when you have a good team to
Oh,
support
I'm
that.
sure. So what can people look forward to coming from you, coming from Shenandoah? What are some things that people can look forward to?
That is interesting question.
Without leaking
Interesting
anything,
question.
of course.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
don't
that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm like, what can I reveal? So from Shenandoah, I would say keep a lookout for our broadcast students, our broadcast team, and there Ian has been doing so much work for structuring and supporting our broadcast team, so I'm very excited to see that side of our program. I would say take a look for some of our like trips and our students who are out and working. Like if people are going out and going to events, there might be Shenandoah students there. Go meet them. They're usually students that want jobs in esports somewhere, whether it's collegiate, whether it's not. So say hi, ask them what they want to get involved in because they want to meet you, but sometimes it's intimidating. But we talk about it. So look out for students. I don't know how much more I can say, but we're gonna be running some events this year, so those will get announced. But I really just am passionate, and for me, I guess a different like role I've taken on this year that I haven't been super vocal on Twitter, but I have announced on LinkedIn. But I was voted on as the chair elect for the competition council for NACE. And so I'm really excited to work with them. Of course, I was already on the competition council, but taking on like a larger role and shaping what that looks like. So I'm always open to talking to people and figuring out how can that organization support different schools, and very much so right now taking in feedback. And so if anybody ever wants to talk on that end, I'm open there as well.
There you go. And where can people find you? That's the other one.
Yeah, find me. Twitter is probably the best. I think it's Alyssa Duran 00, maybe Duran Alyssa 00. I think it's Alyssa. Um, yeah, just look it up. I'm also on LinkedIn, Alyssa Dash Duran. Probably the best way to contact me. I'll answer on one of those. And I usually post a lot about what I do or retweet what Shenandoah is doing. So I would love to chat there.
And last question, this is a joke. Did you take over Joey's old office and what did you do to it?
This is the office. I've actually been asked a lot about this office because they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cute." I'm like, "What? Wasn't cute under Joey?" But yeah, a little diss there. But yeah, I was very lucky to get this is a corner office
Mm,
with a big old window, and I was in like an inner office before this. And it's dark and you never see the sunlight, and so I feel like I'm connected to the world in this one.
there you go.
Um, so definitely it's probably a little bit more pink and girly than it was before. Um, but yeah,
As
I
it
have it
should
set
be.
up as it should be, as it should be. Yeah, I have some space for people to come in, sit down, and work. I have a bunch of chairs in here, and this is my space. I like it a lot.
I
Feels
like
like
the
a
little
welcome to my
flower.
crib episode.
There you
Yeah,
go.
this plant has gone crazy. If anybody's looking for an office plant, I'm pretty sure this is a pothos. This has grown exponentially and it is so cool looking. So I would recommend that.
There you go. Plant recommendations, college esports, everything and everything with Alyssa here.
Office decor tips. Get a pothos.
Loving your pathos. Anyway, thank you
Oh
everyone for
gosh.
tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Wow, I can't speak today. Episode of College Esports Insider with Alyssa Duran from Shenandoah University.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you for coming on. Have a good one.